because you must have a strong military strength. So people should know if the peaceful negotiations fail, then the other country to take some military action or even economic sanctions. So what is power? So then only we can define what is soft power and what is hard power, right? So what is soft power? What is power? First of all, power, we know power is more of a polity question there. Power is something, uh, what do you call power is the ability to influence others. The power is the ability to influence others to get the outcome one prefers. Your ability to influence others so that they can see your point of view and accordingly change their opinion and their behavior to suit you. So this is called as power, right? So very simple definition. Always you should always go for simple definitions only. So power is the ability to influence the decision of others. But power can be two types. One can be coercion. The other things can be persuasion. So that's why persuasion is part of your ethics in fourth paper also. Coercion power is known as hard power. This is known as soft power. So I will briefly define what are these two things. But in the meantime, I'll just also tell something more. Hard power is more tangible. Tangible means you can see that, whereas soft power is more intangible. You can't see that. No, spirituality. What is spirituality? Even that definition is a lot of confusion about that. So you can't measure the civilizational values, but hard power, how much is your military strength, how many military exercises you are doing, we can easily find that out. So mostly it is tangible, mostly it is intangible there. So this definition, this was being given by one famous American thinker called Joseph Nye in his book Bound to Lead, right? So this was written after the end of the Cold War. Joseph Nye said that there are three dimensions of power. I have not defined what is soft power or what is hard power. I'll come to it. So three dimensions of power. So one is coercion. So coercion is using or threatening with the help of military force. Like this is what US did in Iraq and Afghanistan. They said that they told the Taliban government in 2001 after 9/11, you hand over Osama bin Laden to us to face within quote American justice for 9/11. When Taliban refused and gave refuge to Osama bin Laden, then they rained missiles and later attacked and captured. Same thing Iraq. They did to kill Saddam Hussein. So coercion, that is military force. Second is economic incentives. Economic incentives. Third is appeal. Appeal to achieve based on culture and other aspects of values. So essentially this is the soft power, this is hard power, this is somewhere in between, the transitional phase between hard power and soft power. So as I said, hard power is defined essentially by the coercion, which is opposite of persuasion. So which hard power is defined by force or threat of force. In the modern time, economic sanctions, this is hard power. That is what US is now doing to Iran. Economic sanction or to North Korea, though there is no fight, but there is an implicit threat of force is there. So this economic sanctions, now military exercises. So for example, US is doing what is known as freedom of navigation exercises in Pacific Ocean with its allies, with South Korea, with Japan, and with Taiwan. That is a major source of tension in Pacific, particularly in East China Sea between US and China. So, in retaliation, China is now doing, according to the American and American supporting media, a lot of incursions into the Taiwan airspace, which have happened in October. That is in direct retaliation of so-called freedom of navigation exercises, which US does with its allies. So these are all, create tensions, right? So sometimes military alliances like what you have recently. Um, AUKUS, right? Australia, UK, US military alliance or military agreements, military pacts, what India signed in 1971. Today, this is the 50th year of anniversary of Indo-USSR defense agreement. So all this are part of the hard power policy. Obviously, for hard power to do that, you must have the capabilities for that. So capabilities in terms of military strength, technological strength, that is a prerequisite to exercise hard power. If you don't have, then you should not try to do it. That will be dangerous actually. So NATO, for example, is an example of hard power. The new NATO, which is coming up, Quad or AUKUS, is another example of hard power there. Warsaw Pact countries, so there's an example there. Whereas soft power is based on persuasion there. So, which is peaceful negotiations, talks. So these are all examples of which positively attract you. Hard power pushes you out, soft power attracts you towards you. So it's building networks. It's about people to people partnership. It's about sports diplomacy, not only cultural diplomacy, sports diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, aid diplomacy, sports diplomacy, for example. Sometimes ping pong diplomacy. US did it with China to reopen diplomatic relations in the late 1960s. Then of course now North Korea and South Korea sometimes do joint things in the Olympics and all that. Cricket diplomacy, which is part of sports diplomacy. India and Pakistan can easily do that. Hockey diplomacy, we can do that. So this is another aspect. All comes under sport. Anything which is not hard power comes under this thing. So Joseph Nye was the first person again to define what is a soft power. So which is he said there are three pillars of soft powers are there. So one is political values. So this has been a lot of US does that, and India also does that. So US always gives say only, never follow it. USA they support freedom, they support democracy, they support press, independent press, independent judiciary, the so-called values. So political values. India also now says that. So that is political values. Trying to export its political values to other countries is one part of the soft power strategy. Three pillars. Second is, of course, out and out culture, and as I said, Indian spirituality or music or dance or something like that. So third is diplomacy. Diplomacy, we can't say that. Negotiations. The peaceful negotiations as part of the foreign policies are there. So these are, according to Joseph Nye, the three aspects of the soft power thing. So US has one of the greatest. US we think of only as a hard power. Of course, US has the world's biggest military, biggest navy. They can attack any country they want. But at the same time, many people undervalue the US power of soft power. Because particularly the cultural aspects. We think that US is a country of migrants and doesn't have much of a cultural power like India has ancient traditions, spiritualities, China, Egypt. So it's not like that. US, because it's not about spirituality. Of course, that's important, but not that important. What is more important? Everybody watch American movies, Hollywood. So everybody watch American music, whether hip hop, jazz, hard rock, everything. So American singers, whether it is MJ or now various thing people are there. Hollywood, of course, is a huge thing. Basically, there American music and American songs and American way of life inspires a lot of people, and people speak. Even the language. As I said, accent. Speaking with an American accent or speaking English fluently is a very important aspect of that. We think that if a person speaks in any of the Indian native languages, an uncultured person. So you must use American way of eating or the European way of eating with cutlery and all that. So that also is part of that. And pizza. So India has so much KFCs. All that are aspect of the soft power aspects of American diplomacy. So again, as I said, it's not done by the individuals, it's not done by the government per se. So American food, fast food, US fast food culture, that is captured everywhere, all over the world. American dress, jeans, for example, that is a cowboy dress in American Midwest, right? So, but everybody does that. If you wear traditional Indian dress and go to some pubs and all, they may not allow you inside. So this is because we think that because US is the most developed country, most powerful country, anything associated with US is always good. So the so-called junk food, which we call it as fast food, which may not be good for your health, but you want that burger or pizza or stuff like that. When the way we talk, all those things are we have been largely influenced by the American way of life. So this is a very strong point of American diplomacy. Though India, we don't recognize that. We think only about the American hard power, the powerful military and the ability to impose sanctions on other countries. So that is predominant. But what is important is a country cannot rely only upon hard power alone. So soft power creates again the conducive atmosphere for peaceful negotiation, which are also part of the soft power strategy only to resolve the disputes there. Hard power, if soft power fails, then the hard power can be employed, but for that you need capabilities basically. So we can say soft power is a necessary condition to achieve one's foreign policy goals and objectives, but not sufficient. So that is why we say we have to use both of them in a combined manner, in a very smart manner. That is why then it is called a smart power. Smart power is efficiently. When you have to use soft power, we will use it. When we have to use hot power, we have to use that. So we have to combine them in a very intelligent manner to achieve. Ultimate aim is to achieve the goals, objectives for the foreign policy, which are based on the national objectives. So smart power is a combination of. It's not like you can say that 50%, 50%. What it is needed according to the situation, according to the demands, we must use them to achieve the maximum results. So that is what this thing. Some people do criticize Americans that excessive use of hard power at times have diluted American. If they are not using smart power, they are using excessive use, because what they did in Afghanistan, hard power. So has it yielded results? No. Now they have to run away. The fiasco in the Kabul airport we saw. Same thing happened in Iraq also. Did they achieve any of the objectives? No. Now Iraq is more closer to Iran. It's not close to US at all. So the same thing what they are having is right now the Quad or AUKUS is not going to achieve the results with China. So the excessive use of hard power, typical example is US. You can give the example of Iraq and Afghanistan or even Vietnam in the 1960s, have not brought any dividends, and in fact have been counterproductive to the larger American goals of dominating the world. So therefore you have to use a judicious mixture, combination of hard power and soft power is needed to achieve the objectives. You must be very clear. depending upon the situation. If soft power fails only, you have to go for hard power. In the first stage itself, you cannot use the hard power. That is why if you take some unofficial statistics is also there. Even in Europe, so-called NATO allies of US, US has not been respected. It is feared. If China starts using more and more, China has enormous amount of soft power because it is also an ancient civilization, and many places in Southeast Asia and Central Asia, a lot of people are of a Mongolian stock race, and therefore they identify a lot with China has its own vibrant music and movies. Um, like India, China has also has its own strengths in cultural things and soft power things. But the key factor is if any country overuses any one of this, soft power alone cannot resolve any problem there. Because you must have a strong military strength. So people should know if the peaceful negotiations fail, then the other country to take some military action or even economic sanctions. So economic sanctions, of course, the ability to impose depends upon your military power naturally. So this have to go hand in hand together. It's a kind of a parallel track, both soft power and hard power, to achieve the overall objectives there. So that's what India should do also. When you are trying to develop your military, your navy, a lot of exercises, a lot of informal alliances, what you are making, but at the same time you should not give up soft power, which is very very important, as I said, for image building itself, to build the trust itself. So it both work together, right? So muscular policy, foreign policy is based on hard power strategy, right? But if you use only soft power, but you don't know how to use hard power because your military strength is very weak, then nobody will take you seriously, right? You'll be the laughing stock, or people say, "Ah, ठीक है, देख लेंगे, कल आओ, देख लेंगे." People won't take you seriously. The military strength gives you some heft in even in soft power also. Your voice can be heard more powerfully. So this is so that's what I said. We must develop hard power, though we should not use it often. But then it will happen like US, though it is the most powerful country in the world, it is not really loud. So it's better always to achieve things through persuasion. Only coercion you'll take it up only when persuasion fails, and all aspects, all doors of persuasion have been closed. So India's soft power concept has been, for example, India launched a SARC satellite for all the countries of SARC except Pakistan. We have set up SARC University in Delhi, where people from all the SARC countries come and study. India provides line of credit to neighboring countries. So all these are part of the soft power strategy of India. As I said, scholarships to students coming from not only neighboring countries but also from African countries. Helping those countries to develop like MSME sector, what is that called? In Africa, India has got this e-hospital networks and all that. So that is again, as I said, medical tourism. This is also a very specific thing. Using our satellite technology, India has set up. There is headquarters in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And the various other countries also it operates that this medical facility, e-medical facility. So for specialized treatment, they can get connect with the Indian hospitals and interact with the doctors, and who can suggest medicinal cure. If only needed, they will be asked to come to India for surgery and all that. So this is another example of what is Pan-African Network. That's the name of this e-medical facilities, e-educational facilities. So all these are nowadays a lot of students, not apart from scholarship, even come for private education institutions in India also. Even IITs have a small quota for foreign students. So all these are examples of the soft power of India, the growing soft power of India. So the last point I've been talking about is India's soft power strategy has been based on five things. One is Samman. Samman, that means dignity or respect. Samman. Samvad. Samvad is dialogue. Samman is respect and dignity. Samvad is dialogue. Third is Samriddhi. Samriddhi is prosperity, shared prosperity. I mentioned about enlightened self-interest, the concept created by Mr. Manmohan Singh. Fourth is Suraksha. Suraksha. Suraksha is security. So India provides for security, for example, in Mauritius, in Maldives, in Seychelles, by coastal radars and all that to protect them from piracy and other threats. So this is Suraksha. Fifth one is Sanskriti. Sanskriti is of course culture, and Sanskriti and Sabhyata. Maybe that is Sabhyata is, I think, civilizational links. So these are all together, Sanskriti and Sabhyata. Those are based on 5 pillars. India's soft power strategy is based on 5 S or maybe 6 S strategy there. So they're all linked with India's overall goals, national goals, including economic goals there. Right. So this is India's specific soft power strategy. As I said, both should go hand in hand. Soft power and hard power should go hand in hand. So, for example, India's election commission plays an important role in conducting elections in many other countries there, because EVM technology, we help them how to conduct elections. Even Afghanistan also, Nepal also, African countries also, everywhere we do help that. So this is another example of India's soft power. There are various dimensions. You can keep on talking about that. So as a LOC grant, India helped many countries during tsunami in 2004. That is an example of India's soft power. Now we have set up this Indian Ocean Tsunami Center has been set up in India in Hyderabad. So we provide data whenever an earthquake occurs in the neighboring areas, whether tsunami will come or not. All the information is provided. That is another example of India's soft power. So we have some technological capabilities, like as I said, in hospitals or satellite building or such things. So we are ready to share those technologies with our friends in the neighboring countries or developing world countries. So this is a typical example of soft power there. So as I said recently, that is another example of India's soft power is this solar thing, what has been started in Gurgaon. What is the name of that? I mentioned a lot about in prelims time. Now we are planning to set up a global solar grid, starting with the connecting it with first with Southeast Asia and West Asia. I said it's not possible and all that. I mentioned it also. Transnational solar grid. What is the name of that the International Solar Alliance, ISA? ISA, and the recent concept of say India provides help to some island countries, Pacific Ocean island countries, small help for disaster management, global warming or climate change, or the increase in the ocean, this thing, etc. So all these are examples of the soft power strategy of India. High-level visits of by Prime Minister, by President, by Foreign Minister. All these are examples of continuation at the highest level. Prime Minister going to UN and speaking in the UN General Assembly is an example of soft power. India acquiring the 1 month presidency and utilizing it for vaccine diplomacy. That's an example of this thing. India participating in the Gavi, in the Global COVID Alliance, is an example of soft power. That is specifically part of vaccine diplomacy. I mentioned it. Cultural diplomacy, aid diplomacy, vaccine diplomacy, sports diplomacy, all of them are examples of soft power. So India has ample soft power. It's just that we need to utilize it in a more innovative manner to further India's interests, both in the neighborhood and in the extended neighborhood, which are very, very important, and to create a conducive environment for fulfillment of our strategic objectives there. Right. So this is